Okay, so open up a new sketch and we're going to do day 77 coin toss. So remember, start by putting your name at the top. Please just take a second to do that. And then why don't we save it also? I'm going to do save or Control S. And I'm going to save it on the desktop. I'm going to call it day 77 coin toss haze. And you can do that too. And it's just all the more likely I'll be able to give you credit when you turn it in. I'd like you to delete that line and delete this line. They're a little silly to have them sitting there yelling at you. And I asked you in setup to add serial.begin 9600. That's so we can print. And then I asked you to say random seed analog read 0. Pretty sure that was it. Let's make sure that loads. Yep. That's a hard one to do from memory, but I have it in the document for you. And then in here, I asked you to do a couple variables. Int heads, we're going to do coin tosses. So before we start, nobody's flipped any heads, and tails equals 0 also. And then I asked you to do a for loop to go 32,000 times. So for int I equals 0, I less than 32,000, I plus plus, and then we need curly braces, right? This will go 32,000 times because it starts at 0 and goes up to 31,999, and that's 32,000 times. And what we're going to do now is flip a coin. Let's make a variable int flip equals, and we're going to use the random function. It goes like this: random 1, 3. So that's going to store 1 or 2 in the flip variable because it goes 1 less than the top number. And then what we're going to do here is do an if statement. If flip is equal to 1, we're going to add to the heads variable. Heads plus plus. And we're going to say else tails plus plus. Okay. So this is going to flip a coin, pretend to flip a coin, and it's going to add 1 to heads if it's a 1. It's going to add 1 to 2 to tails if it's a 2. Because remember, it's going to be either a 1 or a 2. And then after the for loop, so the for loop, you see, goes from here to here. So not this one, but this one. This is after the for loop, means right here. I want you to print the results. So serial.print. I want you to print heads. And then serial.print the heads variable. And let's see, let's do comma space tails. Notice these are all serial print without the ln. Serial print tails, except this one can be the ln. And let's upload and see if it works. We'll open the log, and we're getting 32,000 flips. It takes a second or two each time. And you see sometimes heads wins, sometimes tails wins. They're all pretty close though, aren't they? I mean, that means it is fairly legitimately random. Because if it was exactly even, it would be 16,000 each. And come to think of it, I'm not really acknowledging that we could get a tie. And so, but let's leave that alone for now. So we're not going to worry about a tie. So make sure you get this working. I'll go back. Here's the entire program. Your name at the top in a comment. up in setup, we need these two things. Also do Control T, make it all pretty. Inside loop, we have heads equals 0, tails equals 0 with the int in front. Then we have a for loop, goes 32,000 times, and we store a random value in a variable flip, and we check it. If it's equal to 1, we add 1 to heads, otherwise we add 1 to tails. So I guess in this scenario, yeah, no, anyway, that's fine. And then we're printing who won or what the results were. Okay, so once you get this working, and by working I mean it looks like this. Here we come. Don't worry about it. It was just partially in the middle of printing when I cut it off. All right, then we're going to add a thing where we're going to keep track of how many rounds there are. We're going to keep overall track of everything. So back to your program, up at the very top, let's add two variables. Int rounds with an S equals 0. So we're doing it up here because we need it to live beyond one run of loop. And we're also going to do int heads wins equals 0. We're going to keep track of how many times heads wins. Okay, so we make those variables up there. And then we're going to come down here. So right before we do the printing, but after the for loop, see, I'm out of the for loop. If I go right here, we're gonna say rounds plus plus. That means add 1 to the rounds variable. And now I want you to print round 1, round 2, round 3, that sort of thing. So serial.print round space serial.print rounds. We're printing the variable, and serial.print. I want to print len colon. So round 1, colon. Let's go ahead and upload that, and you'll see what I changed. It'll say, round 1, round 2, round 3, that kind of thing. See this? So make sure you add that, and then after all this printing, let's add code to figure out who won that round, whether it was heads or tails. So we're going to do an if statement. If heads greater than tails, then we're going to say heads wins plus plus. That means we're adding 1 to the heads wins variable. And we don't need to keep track of a tails wins variable because we know how many rounds we've done, and now we know how many times heads has won. So the times that tails have won is the number of rounds minus heads wins. And again, I acknowledge I'm ignoring possible ties, but that's okay. And so now down here, I want you to print overall score. So serial.print overall score heads. That's the first line. Serial.print heads wins. Serial.print comma space tails colon serial.print, and here we don't have a tails variable, but we do know it's rounds minus heads wins. Actually this should be the ln one, I'm pretty sure. And let's upload and see if we like it. I think I might want one more blank line on one of my prints. Let's see, round 1, round 2, yeah. So the last thing I'd like is a blank line after this tails thing. Let's see how we're keeping an overall score. So I'm going to add the blank line right here, \n on round. We're going to upload it again. Here we go. Round 1. Round 2. See how that's going? Wow, heads 4 times in a row. There's 150,000 rolls. Wow, I'm getting quite a run there. Heads won 6 out of 6 before tails started popping in. Anyway, this is the overall program for today. So I hope this helped you get it done. Your output should look like this, but the results will be different because it's actually random. So I suggest you do a high stakes comparison with someone who's sitting next to you or near you about who, let it run 20 times and see who wins, heads or tails. And you guys decide amongst yourselves who gets which. All right. And remember, please, in class today, your substitute knows how to program an Arduino. So if you're stuck, raise your hand and politely ask for help. Mr. Nethery is a Arduino expert. Okay, thanks.